Hello, my name is Matthew, and I've been reading Tom Jones by Henry Fielding. This is my old Barnes& Noble Classics paperback edition, and I'm about halfway through and absolutely loving this book. And it's quite a surprise that after reading the Karamazov brothers and after reading um, Middlemarch, I would go right into another older uh, old English novel by Henry Fielding, a ribald story. And I had taken a moment to do a little bit of experimentation. I just talked about it, picking up William S. Burroughs, and being unimpressed, and thinking about these older novels, the germs of what would become a traditional novel. And I started reading Tom Jones, which is an extremely entertaining, innovative, satirical novel by Henry Fielding. And it is so interesting having Middlemarch and the Karamazov brothers so fresh in my mind while I've been reading this book. And so Henry Fielding is telling us the history of Tom Jones. And one of the things that I love about 18th century, I think, whenever this was written, um, yeah, 1749, 18th century English novels, is that we have the author addressing the reader. Things like, "Dear reader," and that relationship that the reader and the author have is maintained. This is Henry Fielding speaking to a reader. I'm telling you a story. I'm also going to give some instruction and entertainment throughout the book. He'll have the, I don't know what they're called, but the little descriptive, almost like a recap of what is going to happen. So, chapter 3. The character of Mr. Square, the philosopher, and of Mr. Thwackum, the divine, with a dispute concerning. And it's so interesting to see almost like an evolution where Henry Fielding will have these little blurbs that'll say, this is going to be a chapter which will be instructive. This is a chapter where so and so finds love. This will be a violent chapter. Whereas in Middlemarch, George Eliot gives us these little poems, lyrics, little blurbs, which are indicative of the chapter that we're going to read, but it's not explicit. You can read the chapter, go back, or if you have a really good memory, just remember, but go back and read the little blurb and see that there was a meaningful connection between the blurb and the story. Here, Henry Fielding is just very straightforward. This is going to be a violent chapter. I'm going to tell you that prepare for violence. And my thought when I picked up William S. Burroughs, thinking, I want to read something experimental. I don't want some old, stodgy, I don't want another old, stodgy English novel. And it couldn't have been further from the truth. This book is hugely innovative and experimental, and Henry Fielding is trying things not to befuddle the reader, but to keep the reader's engagement, to keep things exciting. If we're doing too much of some philosophizing, well, let's take a break and let me tell you a moral instruction. Even the structure of the novel, It's about 800 pages. And for the first 100 pages, Tom Jones really doesn't even make an appearance. It might be 50 pages in where he's discovered. This book is also hilarious with its very casual profanity. And so, maybe 50 pages in, the very moral, upright character, indicated by his name, Mr. Allworthy, the landowner, finds a little bastard baby in his bed when he gets home after a trip. And the little bastard baby is Tom Jones. And he remains a baby for about 100 pages. Henry Fielding will talk to the reader and explain explicitly what's going on. And Henry Fielding is a reader, and he talks about his own reading. Horace is mentioned, probably mentioned more than any other writer through the halfway point. Talks about, in a history, sometimes lots and lots of things will happen in a single day. Other times, maybe a year will go by without incident. And I'm, being Henry Fielding, being a proper historian, I'm going to select, and if nothing happens for a couple years, we'll skip a couple years. If there's a very busy week, we'll talk about the week. There's parts of the book that'll say the events of this chapter happen in 12 hours. We finally get Tom Jones as a young, handsome, rascally, and complicated character. This is now we have characters that are just kind of shimmering with allegorical figures that are now becoming realistic. So we still have characters like Mr. Allworthy, but these are no longer the characters that you would find in the Pilgrim's Progress or other allegorical Christian stories. People are trying their best, making mistakes, doing things that are wrong. And it's hard to describe how humorous and fun this book is. When there's funny moments, they are just wonderfully executed. Hearing characters argue back and forth about ridiculous things. And finally, we have Mr. Allworthy, who's on his deathbed with the doctor saying it's not good. Looks like he's not going to make it. And there's Biffle. There's Tom Jones's love interest, Sophia, the landowners over there, the rascally things that Tom has done by shooting a partridge or selling his horse, and things where it seems like he's being very devilish, but he's actually has a noble ulterior motive. And Mr. Allworthy, through Tom Jones's upbringing, is trying to correct these behaviors. The other family, now I can't remember their family's name, but Tom saves the day for this one family. And then there's Sophia, which is hilariously introduced. It takes about 100 pages just to get to Tom's introduction. And then Sophia, who's the most beautiful lady in all the land, her introduction into the story, Henry Fielding describes with literal trumpets and a parade with floats, and there's harps and a big brass band, and all saying like this is the kind of introduction that is proper for such a beautiful lady. And then we get Sophia, and the family likes Tom. There's a misunderstanding where they think that Sophia is in love with Bliffle. That's Tom's kind of like adopted, or sort of like his brother, but not really his brother. And then it comes out that, and Bliffle is like a respectable gentleman, whereas Tom is a bastard. He's a foundling. And when it turns the whole both houses upside down. This young lady is gonna marry a bastard instead of a gentleman, and the households are basically forcing this marriage together. Uh, and what finally gets Tom kicked out of the house is it turns out that Mr. Allworthy is not going to die. The doctor comes out and says he's going to live. So Tom and a bunch of people, they promptly get drunk. A fight breaks out. Finally, he's shambling down the road and hops into the bushes with another girl in the story. Even though he's supposed to be in love with Sophia, he starts getting handsy with this other girl, and Bliffle and a couple other characters basically catch him in the bushes. He comes out of the bushes and gets into another drunken fight, beats up these people, and all of this is revealed after Mr. Allworthy is well again, and he's horrified. He's carousing around town. He's on the day that his father has been so good to him, has been sick and finally recovering. He's drunk, carousing around town, getting into fights, getting handsy with a different girl than the girl that he supposedly liked, and he gets booted out. And the world starts opening up. Now, the history of Tom Jones is the history of these adventures. And he starts going from town to town. He's penniless, but everywhere he goes, he's immediately strung up into some sort of strange adventure. Hilariously, everywhere he goes, he'll run into someone or multiple people who know exactly who he is and knew him from his past and knew him when he was a baby. You can't get away from anyone that doesn't know Tom Jones. And quite happily, you can see the influence that Cervantes, Don Quixote's Cervantes' Don Quixote has had on this novel. All of a sudden, we have Tom Jones, the hero, who gets basically a squire. His name's Partridge at the moment. There's other things going on. But now they're roaming around town, not really seeking adventures, but having adventures pile onto them. And it's such great fun. At the halfway point, there's just a joy to know that there's so much good stuff for me to get into. And I'm not doing it justice. I hardly went over what the actual plot is. The main character of the book is Henry Fielding. These introductory chapters where he talks about storytelling and talks about instruction and talks about other great books and other authors that are imitators and authors that are wastes of time to read, and what it means to be a good story. What do you need? And he describes it as, well, you need genius and you need judgment. The humor between, well, I'm just relaying the facts because this is a history that's being told. Really, really wonderful. I may or may not make a part 2, depending, but I know I'm going to have great fun finishing this book. So let me know if you read it. Tom Jones by Henry Fielding. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment if you would like, and take care.